Good evening, everybody. It's 9:30 on the East Coast, 6:30 on the West Coast on a Monday. It must mean it's time for your very belated weekly Calamity Jane live stream. James, how are you doing on this now fall evening, post-hurricane fall evening?
Yeah, you're dealing with a lot of stuff over there.
Oh
I
man,
mean,
there's a
yeah,
lot of crazy stuff going on in Atlanta right now.
I bet. So hopefully people are staying safe and they're able to, I mean, I know that I think there was some, sadly, there's a lot of, there's some casualties with South Carolina, I think, from this
Yeah,
storm, for
yeah, there
example. I don't know
was.
about Georgia yet. I've been reading some blurbs here and there. So yeah, but hopefully you're staying safe and your loved ones are as well. And hopefully everybody can get through it and there won't be that much more collateral sadness that's been happening.
Yeah, I mean, at least as far as my immediate concerns are concerned, everything's fine. Where I live was we lost power for a couple of days, but I wasn't even here. I was on
Mhm.
vacation, so um, so that's not really. I avoided the worst of it, quite frankly, um, and um, yeah. So, but yeah, there have been a few deaths. I don't know if any were in Georgia, though it wouldn't surprise me. Valdosta and Savannah got hit pretty hard.
Mm,
Um, but we'll see. As the dust settles, how they clean that up and how it works out.
yeah. Um, but on my side of town, everything's good. I've been traveling, so sorry that we haven't had a chance to really stream. We haven't been able to sync up really because I've been on planes and stuff like that. And then also my voice is a little bit more raspier than usual tonight because now I'm dealing with a cough of some sort.
Mm.
But so far so good. Knocking on particle board. I'm haven't emitted any germs into the air by coughing. And hopefully you're insulated enough with internet and being in Georgia that you won't catch this stupid cough that I got.
Who knows,
So
man? Viruses are magic, you know? Who
they
knows?
they can be.
Yeah.
But yeah, but we're back at it. I'll go back into sharing my screen and we'll work on
Let's,
some stuff
yeah.
tonight and we'll hang out.
It's been so long, I forgot the routine. So hold on, let me do the button. There you
No
go.
worries.
Now you should be good.
Okay. All right. So for tonight's stream, while we hang out, I will be working on Mitchell Winchester working on cleaning one of his juice mugs that
Excellent.
people will usually come in and get a juice from him. So yeah, I'll be using our assets that we have built already for Mitchell, and I'll be
Hmm.
kind of trying to set up this pose and also try to animate a little bit if we get lucky tonight.
All right.
But yeah, that's where
Well,
I'm
at the
at
very least, we'll
tonight.
get the post set up. So
Yeah.
I think the big topic that shouldn't surprise anybody that we're going to talk about today is, of course, the Oasis reunion tour.
Oh wait, what?
Oh, you didn't hear about this?
That came out of left field. I
No,
didn't even know. Whoa,
I'm
that came out
just
of nowhere.
teasing. The only reason it
Ah.
matters to me, I mean, I'm not going to get tickets because they cost a fortune and they're only playing in like
Mhm.
5 cities in all of North America. But Cage the
Okay.
Elephant is opening for them, and I'm like, damn,
Oh,
what a concert to
yeah.
go to.
Yeah, you really
But
liked that band, if I recall. You went and saw them live
a
a
couple of
couple of months
times,
ago.
yeah, a couple of months
Yeah,
ago. And they were
yeah.
great. They were awesome. No. I think the thing that everybody would expect us to talk about if they've been watching this stream for a while is, of course, the Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom came out last week, and I
Yeah.
have been playing the crap out of it. And I don't think that you've had an opportunity to pick it up yet, so I don't want to
No.
like get too spoilery. But I'm not particularly far in the game. I just started work on the third dungeon, and to this point, all of the stuff that's been covered in the trailers and the featurettes and things of that nature is the only thing. I mean, they clearly all of the footage has been from like the first part of the game.
Okay.
Um, but it is super fun. I've been really enjoying it. So it is. I mean, I think my one sentence review is it is everything that I wanted Breath of the Wild to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so here's the thing. I mean, like we played you and I between us both, we played a lot of Zeldas.
Yeah. Probably more
I
than
would
any
imagine.
reasonable person
Yeah.
should play.
Um, but I remember and this hasn't happened a lot with a lot of Zeldas, but I remember kind of getting into that zone. I don't know if there's a term for gamers speak for this, but
Mm,
where you kind of get lost and time kind of sits still and you just play the game and you kind of enjoy um the stream of consciousness game playing of the game. Like
mm-hmm,
Ocarina of Time did that for me, where I would just lose track of time because I just love being in that world and being immersed in it. But
mm-hmm.
there's so many, well, many other Zelda games don't have that magic. But I'm wondering where Echoes is at. Like, where would you? That's my bar for
Yeah.
the perfect Zelda game. Still, Ocarina still is my favorite of all time. But
Mm-hmm.
where would you put the bar for this game compared to
Well, I mean, if we're
your
talking,
favorite?
yeah, if we're talking bars, I actually ditched school um
Huh.
when it came out in 1998, Ocarina of Time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Drove 30 minutes to the mall where I had pre-ordered the game and got there as the mall was opening, rushed immediately to GameStop, and got extremely lucky because they only got half the pre-orders that they were expecting to get in. And
Wow.
I was in line and got the last of the pre-orders that they had actually gotten in that day.
That's a
Um,
lot to that's a lot that's a really cool memory to kind of
yeah,
battle against with
yeah,
other Zelda titles already right off
exactly.
the bat.
Already.
That's
and
tough.
and it came out around Thanksgiving time, and I remember making my mother extremely angry because she kept saying dinner's ready, and I kept saying I'll be up in a
Oh,
second, and she
yeah.
ultimately came downstairs and was like enough, like just really not happy.
That's
um,
what I would call that gamer zone I was talking to you about
mm-hmm,
before. That is
mm-hmm.
exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
And is Echoes of Wisdom likely to ruin someone's Thanksgiving because I've been playing it so much? Probably not. Did I skip
Okay.
out on school early to go pick it up? No, I didn't. Um, that being said, it is an extremely fun Zelda. It's really too early to say where it ranks in the overall pantheon of Zelda
Okay.
experiences, but at least based on my short tenure with the game to this point, I'd place it above both of the Switch Zeldas, both of the DS Zeldas. Um, I'd probably place it above Twilight Princess, at least in my
Whoa. Okay.
my early experiences with the product. I really dig the art style. It's the same art style as the Link's Awakening remake. That sort of
Hmm.
those little wood block kind of
Hmm.
figurine sort of visuals with the tilt shift focus on the overhead. I find extremely endearing, and the game themes and everything that sort of revolves around it, it makes perfect sense, right? So the visuals really work with the game, and they don't, they're not working at cross purposes with like the seriousness of the experience or anything like that.
Hmm.
So, it's been extremely fun. It is hard to make a final assessment on the game until I get through it. It is
Okay.
super entertaining to this point though. And while I didn't, get into a really um crazy flow state with it, I did like yesterday just like lose 2 or 3 hours playing it. I started playing it at one point, and then I went up to use the restroom or get a snack or something. I was like, "Holy shit! When did it turn into 10 p.m.?"
Mm.
Right?
Mm.
So,
Mm.
um, so yeah, it was a lot. Um, so yeah, I've been enjoying it. I say that it is everything that I wanted Breath of the Wild to be because it is a fully open world game. Um, as soon as you get a few echoes, not many, you don't even need many because I was talking to a friend of mine. You can go and explore the entire map, and each echo that you cast requires like you have a certain MP for lack of a better word, but the MP is like five at most. I think maybe it's
So
six.
one question for you. So when
Mm-hmm.
you're referring to echoes, that's the currency in the game pretty much that replaces rupees and stuff
No.
compared to
Rupees
other
are all
Zeldas?
still there. No, echoes are the so you can there's over 100 of them in the game. Whether
Okay.
they're enemies or tables or beds, certain items you can learn, and you can then
Got it.
recast
Yeah.
them at your leisure, as long as you have enough magic points, right? And you start off with 3 magic points and you go up. I'm currently at 4. I think the maximum is probably 6 or 7.
Hmm.
Um, and uh, as long as you have magic points, you can cast more of these echoes forever. And when you run out of magic points, it just decasts one of your previous ones and then recasts it again. So it is very open, very freeing. After you get the first couple of echoes, you can basically explore the entirety of the overworld map. You can actually acquire echoes that require more points to cast than you start with, because you only start with 3 points, and so you'll get echoes that cost 4 and 5 points, and it's really cool. That kind of freedom was one of the things that I really liked about Breath of the Wild. But whereas Breath of the Wild was like, okay, here's all the game worlds and all the tools you're ever going to have throughout the course of the game. See you
Hmm.
later, right? You know, the designers dip after that. This game
Hmm.
still has a lot of curated content. There's still traditional Zelda puzzles. There's still old school Zelda dungeons that you have to go from room to room and unlock doors and that kind of thing. There's
Hmm.
still actual ability progression. Um, you get this special ability to kind of temporarily turn into a version of Link, right? So you get access to a sword and a bow and arrow and a few other things. Um, and and all those things unlock as you progress through the story. So even if you go to the final castle in the game, such that it is, you won't be able to go and take on the final boss because the content actually has been curated and has been intentionally designed. Um, and it's just very cool so far. It is the blend that I was looking for. It's a fresh take on the franchise without being um, completely devoid of everything that I would consider Zelda. Right? It
Hmm.
was sort of the change that I wanted to see, and obviously, I have my own tastes, and other people their mileage will vary. Um, but it is what I was looking for in terms of a revamp on Zelda. So.
So right off the bat, when you're telling me like we're talking about the dungeons, just going to door, room to room, that already sounds exciting to me as a
Mm-hmm.
Zelda fan because boy, Breath of the Wild was a huge disappointment in that regard with their mini sample temple things that they had
Mm-hmm.
all over the map.
Mm-hmm.
They were never that interesting. They were just kind of pretty much usually just giant rooms and yeah, it just and that the thing is like I don't mind experimentation with Zelda, I guess. I mean sometimes you want to do something fresh and new, but I like the fact that they did release Link's Awakening remastered on the Switch, so you at least had a chance to at least play old school and kind of go that way. But this one, what's interesting to me is how it's just like what you're describing. It blends Breath of the Wild's open world aspects of it with old school stuff. And it makes me wonder if that's the natural progression of what the next Zeldas, all this future Zeldas are going to be like. Because they had so much success with Breath of the Wild and people really love that game and people are, find it, people are just enamored with it. And then maybe some of us older players were not really into it as much. Um, but this game seems to have shaken hands with it in a way, from what you're saying. It sounds
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it so far. And it is, yeah. I don't want to spoil too much because there's a huge aspect of discovery in the game
Okay.
that I think is part of the joy of the experience. And
Hmm.
you could say the same thing about Breath of the Wild, and I certainly enjoyed the discovery aspects of Breath of the Wild. That was my favorite part of it. Where it got back bogged down was basically just, in my opinion, throwing the baby out with the bathwater by removing basically every aspect that made Zelda Zelda, in my opinion. I mean, there were great design precedents and successful mechanics that they just kind of abandoned wholesale, and I just kind of wasn't in on the gimmick, I guess.
Hmm.
And this isn't. I wouldn't say Echoes of Wisdom is a a step back. But what I do think it is it's a sort of a remembering what the reason why Zelda was great in the first place, right? Um, so yeah, it's been highly enjoyable. I love the way that the perspective has shifted to Zelda as the main character instead of Link. Um,
Mhm.
Link is still very much a presence in the game, narratively speaking. Uh, but yeah, it's really cool what they did with it. I really think it's a fun way to play on the Zelda story, the Legend of Zelda story
Mhm.
type. So archetypes. So yeah,
Does
yeah.
it actually, maybe you don't know just yet, but does this even actually play in any of the mainline overall narrative of the Zelda games? Like they've talked about how there's this whole
hmm
timeline of Zelda, right? Does the Awakening and Echoes, do they even fit into that timeline, or are they their own little separate little
Link's
side things where
Link's Awakening definitely does. That's actually in Hyrule Historia where Link's Awakening falls into the
yeah.
timelines. I know that they just released a new sort of Legend of Zelda book in Japan, specifically for Tears of the Kingdoms, and in it they have an updated timeline.
Hmm.
And Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, although are connected to each other, obviously, the new timeline says that it is completely unrelated to the timeline in the other game. So it's effectively in an alternate dimension, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, where Echoes of Wisdom stands, unclear. They don't. There's not a huge amount of callbacks to other Zelda games um, or obvious influences from other Zelda games. But I will also say I've never really. I know some people really get steeped in the Zelda mythos. It's
Yeah,
never really been something that I've cared about, right? Sort of like
I'm with you on that too.
sort of like how, as far as I'm aware, most of the Final Fantasy games don't have any sort of shared continuity.
Hmm.
I'd say the same thing applies to Zelda for me, and I'm totally fine with it. I don't, and a part of it is just I don't really look to video games for sort of any sort of narrative cohesion.
Hmm.
And also, we see what happens when you get bogged down in the continuity of a grander universe. You know, take a look at most television shows, most long running comic book series, or the MCU, for instance. And so, not being bound by any strict continuity, I think, is the right way to go, personally. So, I try to just take the games for what they are, and if there is some larger connective tissue between games, well, it's a fun little extra, but it's not something that drives me.
Yeah, in this case, I'm a 100% agreeing with you. Whenever I played a new Zelda game, I never expected it to be, unless it was explicit when they
Mm-hmm.
said like way back,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me. Um, Legend of Zelda obviously was the first one. Then they went Legend of Zelda 2, Adventure of Link. So it was clearly they hit you over the
Mm-hmm.
head with the hammer saying this is a sequel.
Right.
And that's fine. But when they made I believe it was Link to the Past was the next one.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even expect it to be a sequel of anything. I just thought it was just another retelling of the legend of Zelda.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what the whole point of legends are, is you just keep seeing different versions and different takes of it. So I
Mm-hmm.
never really so I was actually kind of surprised when a couple of years ago, I think you and I were talking about it, and you talked about the Hyrule books, and like there was actually a they set up a timeline, they actually established something. Because this whole time when I've been playing Zelda games, I never expected anything to fit into anything. I thought they were their own little self-contained little stories that were told
Mm-hmm.
by a video game fire, by a video game developer and artist, and that was all they were doing, was just doing their own take on this current version of Zelda. So yeah, I'm with you though. I never really caught up too much in the continuity either. I don't care if what the origin of Ganon really is. I think it's kind of neat to see him have a new origin every single time. I think that's kind of interesting, but um, my personal favorite is the version in Ocarina of Time where they did everything through text boxes and dialogue as you played the game, and then where he was raised and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the Ganon in Wind Waker, I felt kind of lost in the narrative with that one with Ganon in that one. But again, I just played it for what it was. great game.
Hmm.
Really enjoyed Wind
Yeah.
Waker for what it was, and that was about it.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the narrative of Wind Waker actually. Again, irrespective
Hmm.
of its connection to the other games in the series. I uh you know, the idea that the King of Hyrule used some kind of magic to flood Hyrule
Hmm.
and trap Ganon at the bottom of the sea
Hmm.
was kind of clever in the way that he sort of breaks loose, and it was I enjoyed that a lot. Um, and and it was one of my more I like that story. Is one of my favorite Zelda stories, such as they are. I mean, the Zelda stories are
Hmm.
never particularly complex, but I really
Hmm.
like the world that they created, and I really liked how they characterized everything. And to this day, it remains maybe my favorite Ganondorf design. Really, really love the
Wow.
way that character looked. Yeah.
All I remember about that Ganon design, well, I think there's two. Well, yeah, it was pretty cool because I remember like there was that weird puppety kind of thing where it's like a snaky kind of thing walking around. That was really fun.
Yeah, it was
And
one
then
of the
fighting,
bosses. Yeah.
yeah, it was an iteration of him, I believe, right? Like, was
Hmm.
that a manifestation of him?
It
Yeah.
was a manifestation
And
of
then
him. Yeah.
yeah, and then yeah, the end fight scene was great too because I think you and Zelda both fight him together, I
Hmm.
believe, right?
Hmm.
In the
Yeah,
scene.
you
Yeah.
deflect her light arrows off your shield to hit Ganon.
Yeah, that was really neat. That
Hmm.
was a cool
Hmm.
boss. That was a cool boss sequence. What's funny, like for me in that game, I kind of lost the story after a while because I think I was getting too bored with just floating
Hmm.
around the sea over and over and over again. I kind of
Yeah.
stopped paying attention. So
Yeah.
I may have, I mean, it could have been my OC, my OCD, not OCD, ADD, and not paying attention after a while. I was like, okay, King, you're saying something else. And then and all this text. I'm like, where do I find the next heart piece? I was kind of getting bored. So it could have been just me as a
Yeah.
gamer, just kind of, oh my gosh, what is this? So that is pretty cool. Like what you described, it does sound pretty cool. That was recent. Like I was thinking, like I knew there was a big giant apocalyptic calamity, and that's why the whole world was flooded. I
Hmm.
totally, I totally forgot and or missed that it was the king that did that to flood Ganon out.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
To trap him. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to playing that game one of these days again, and maybe I'll be able, now that I'm wiser, I'll play it and be a little more patient with it and
I mean, who
appreciate it for
knows?
what it is.
Maybe they'll release Zelda HD, Wind Waker HD remake on the Switch 2 or whatever it ends up being called.
Yeah, yeah. You would think they're sitting on it because I think it is revered amongst
Hmm.
Zelda fans. People seem to like it, even though all the hate it got when it first got released, people were pretty angry about it. But I think it's grown on people over time
I think it
with that
was,
one.
yeah, I don't know. Fans are weird and they have
Yeah.
very short memories. And I remember that they were complaining. The main reason they were complaining, I feel like, is at the GameCube reveal when they had that very, very brief
Hmm.
clip of Link fighting Ganon. Was it Ganon or was it another monster? I don't remember. Link was fighting something, and it was more in the vein of what Twilight Princess eventually became. And then they changed the art style to something very cartoony, very different for what I think fans were expecting after Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and it really set them off. And it's a little silly to look back on it and go that a graphical change is what set
Real, yeah,
fans off, but it really was what it was. And I also think Wind Waker did have some problems when it came out, not least of which the sailing was it did get a little tedious over
yeah.
time, and because they really wanted to emphasize people, uh, you know, doing the sailing, they limited the amount of quick travel options, etc.,
Yeah.
etc. But you know, one of the nice things about Wind Waker HD is they didn't add any more warp points, but they doubled the speed that the boat sails at.
Oh, that's nice. That's a nice luxury.
Yeah, and so it's a lot easier to get around the environment as a result, and it's more
Mm.
fun that way as well. Speeds the game up a little bit. It plays a little bit faster as a result, and there's a couple other really nice quality of life improvements that they made as well. I really, if they do bring it back for the Switch 2, I highly recommend it. And if they don't, I would try to get your hands on a Wii U and at the very least play it on that.
Versus the GameCube version.
The Wii
You
U
said the Wii U
version,
version's.
the Wii U version is better than the GameCube version, in my opinion. There,
Uh-huh.
the Wii U version streamlines a lot of the stuff. So, like I said, they add the
Mm.
fast sale. They also significantly reduce the Triforce Shard fetch quest that occurs in the second half of the game.
Oh, jeez.
In the
Is that where you just kind of sail around all over the ocean, finding little tiny little pieces of? Oh
mhm.
man, that was tedious.
And
Yeah, I do remember
yeah,
that.
it's still there, but there's only 8 things that you have to do instead of 16. In the original, you had to
Oh,
first find the treasure map. Then you had to take it to Tingle, who would interpret the treasure map, and then you'd have to go find the Triforce shard and collect the shard. And so then so there was all this back and forth, all this retreading familiar ground over and over and over again for way too long. And they
mhm.
basically streamlined it where I don't remember how it worked, but I think Tingle just basically gives you the maps and you go directly to each of the Triforce pieces.
Mhm.
So instead of 16 fetch quests, they reduced it to 8, which again significantly improves that whole process, makes it a lot more palatable.
If I recall, Tingle was actually put in that game to help kind of promote sales for, was it the DS at the time or the
Yeah,
Advance, where
the
you could do certain things with it, and then Tingle would interact with that, and then that's how you do something else, and it
yeah.
makes usually quality of life improvement of some sort.
So they got rid of the Tingle
I never,
tuner. Yeah,
okay, yeah, I never played that. Did you actually play that aspect of it?
of course.
Wow, of course you
Of
did,
course I
of course you
did.
did.
Yes, I did use the Tingle Tuner. Honestly, I don't even remember what it did anymore. I want to say that it was integrated in some capacity into the Wii U version because it did have the benefit of having a second screen, but I don't exactly remember how it changed from the original Tingle Tuner to its implementation in the Wii U version of the game.
Hmm. So you just found a way around it,
Yeah,
so that right off the bat, that makes it a
yeah,
better experience as
yeah,
well.
yeah, absolutely. And the Tingle Tuner in the GameCube version wasn't a deal breaker. It was an extra optional feature that provided a few benefits, but in no sense of the word made the game easier or felt like it was
Mhm.
cheating or something like that. It was just sort of a
Yeah,
bonus extra feature. Um,
yeah.
but it was I do recall thinking it was fun. I mean, Nintendo's been playing around with the two-screen format for a long time.
Hmm.
Starting, as far back as, to my memory at least, to the GameCube, right? With the connective ability between the Game Boy Advance and the
Hmm.
GameCube, and obviously culminating with the DS and the 3DS and the Wii U, and obviously they dropped that feature for the Switch, which is fine. It was serving a different master to a certain extent,
Yeah.
but yeah, Nintendo does like the ability to have you look in different places. Just the process of changing your focus from one screen to the next. I think that they always thought was kind of fun, and they're clearly
Mhm.
not wrong given how successful the the DS was.
Yeah. Which I don't know if the Switch has even surpassed it yet in popularity just yet, or has it now? Maybe it has.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
That was their biggest selling console of all time. That was a DS, I thought, for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the DS was. I think the 3DS maybe overtook the DS,
Oh,
um,
okay.
but I don't know for sure.
Hmm. Cool. I mean, and we're not even gonna bother talking about Spirit Tracks on the DS or any other stuff
I
that came
mean,
out. Those iterations were,
they're not. I never beat either one of
yeah,
them. There's only 3 Zelda
neither did
games
I.
I've never beaten. I mean, in the regular sense of the Zelda game. Obviously, I don't consider the CDI games particularly relevant, but
Yeah.
I mean, Zelda was playable in one of them, so it was a first there. They beat
She,
Nintendo in their own game.
yeah.
But no, but yeah, I mean, I never beat Phantom Hourglass. I never beat Spirit Tracks, and I
Yeah.
haven't even played Tears of the Kingdom. Although I'm sure I'll get around to it at some point. Though I don't know if I'll stick with it long enough to beat it.
Wow, you're actually intrigued to want to actually pick it up and try it, huh?
No, I'm just a glutton for punishment, and it's the only
Um,
Zelda game in the entire franchise I've never played. So
okay.
I take that back. I never beat Zelda 2 either. That was just too damn hard.
Zelda 2 was rough, but
Yeah,
considering it was a sequel.
yeah.
I mean, Zelda, it's just a different mindset to play versus the first one. Yeah, it was tough. I'm even surprised I beat it back then.
Man, I could never get past the bridge to the eighth dungeon. I would always die on that, no
mm,
matter how many times I practiced it. And I
yeah.
mean, I could get past the bridge, but then by the time I got to the dungeon, I'd used up all my potions, I'd used up all my recovery mana,
hmm
and I just was like, I was so weak by the time I got to the dungeon that I could never last that far. And
Yeah, there's a lot of those little spots where on your
mm-hmm,
way to something, they would really make sure you were completely bludgeoned by the time you got
mm-hmm.
there.
And
Yeah,
so
it's pretty
yeah,
evil.
yeah. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm done with this.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It was not the most fun Zelda out of all of them, for sure. It's it's not up there for me all-time fave for a Zelda game, but it's good. I don't mind it, but it's yeah,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
definitely has a different personality. Even when you compare it to any of those Zelda games, it's just so different being that side scroller version of it,
mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah,
versus
it
the other
was
ones.
a massive departure. And again, I'm not against departures. I think that that was
Yeah.
them experimenting while again holding true to the core, elements that made Zelda Zelda, right? You still had a progression, you still increased your power over time. I mean, it
hmm
was a
hmm
side-scrolling game and it actually had experience points and you leveled up, and that was a big departure for the franchise. But I think the core essence of what makes Zelda Zelda was still there, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny. We were talking about echoes, but we really kind of went down a path of talking about other Zeldas in a
Yeah,
way.
well, that's what happens when you don't have a script that you adhere to.
Yeah, yeah. But no, it's also because I think you wanted to avoid spoilers as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
There's only so much you could say. But I think I'm in a pretty good spot here with Mitchell
Okay.
and his pose
All
to clean
right.
his glass. I mean, I was gonna start animating, but that's gonna take a little bit longer. Maybe we'll save that for next week.
Okay. Sounds good.
Um,
We've been going for a
and I
good
can.
35 minutes, so that's back in the day, we would do a hard out at 30, regardless of where we were at. So,
That's true. That's true.
so
But
I think it's
yeah,
fine.
I it gives me a chance to drink more Robitussin cough syrup
Yeah,
for the
right.
next couple of days.
Yeah, exactly. Recover your
Yeah,
voice a little bit. I'll miss the dead,
so
sexy,
annoying.
raspy voice of yours, though.
Yeah, yeah. If only. And I'll go back to my squeaky pipsqueak voice soon enough. No
All right.
worries.
All right. Well, on that case, then we'll wrap it up here. We should be back next week. Same Calamity time, same Calamity channel. Check us out at patreon.com. Head on over to calamityjane.rocks. That'll take you over there. Please consider subscribing and joining us on this adventure to make this cartoon a reality. You can also find us on Facebook and YouTube, which presumably you already have since you're here watching the show. We're also over on Instagram at Calamity Jane Salamander. We occasionally post some fun stuff over there. So if you're looking for more silly content, check that out from time to time. All right, everybody. Well, we'll see you next Monday. Have a good week and stay safe out there. Good night, everyone.
Good night.